The radiation counter's steady clicking was Commander Sarah Chen's only companion as she navigated through the twisted metal graveyard that was once downtown Sacramento. 20 years after the resource wars, the wasteland still held its secrets and its dangers. Her reinforced hazard suit creaked with each careful step through the ruins, the sound echoing off skeletal buildings that reached like jagged fingers toward a rust-colored sky. Control, this is Chen. Sector 7 sweep complete. Nothing but the usual debris and hotspots. She paused, adjusting her suit's external filters as a gust of contaminated wind swept past. Moving on to Sector 8. The response crackled through her comm unit, distorted by the ambient radiation. Copy that, Commander. Be advised, we're picking up some unusual energy signatures about 2 clicks northeast of your position. Probably just another reactor fragment, but check it out anyway. Understood. Sarah altered her course, consulting the heads-up display projected onto her visor. The energy signature was unlike anything she'd seen before, not the usual gamma radiation from the war's aftermath, but something more coherent. As she crested a hill of rubble, Sarah froze. Below, in what must have been an old parking structure, lay something that definitely wasn't from Earth. The object was roughly oval-shaped, about the size of a small bus, its metallic surface rippling with iridescent patterns that seemed to shift and flow like oil on water. More striking was the breach in its hull, a jagged tear that exposed glimpses of crystalline technology within. Control, are you seeing this? Sarah activated her suit's camera feed, heart pounding. Affirmative, Commander. Maintain distance and await backup. Do not, repeat, do not, approach the object. But then she saw movement near the craft, a figure stumbling through the ruins, clearly injured. Even at this distance, Sarah could tell it wasn't human. The proportions were wrong, its movements too fluid despite the obvious pain. As she watched, the figure collapsed. Protocol dictated she wait for the containment team. Protocol said unknown entities in the wasteland were to be treated as hostile until proven otherwise. Protocol had kept humanity alive in the decades since first contact had gone catastrophically wrong. Sarah started down the hill. Control, we have a survivor. I'm moving to assist. Commander Chen, that's a negative. Stand down and wait for. She killed the comm. Later, she would attribute her actions to basic human decency, to the oath she took to preserve life. But in that moment, all she could think about was how lonely it must be to die on an alien world, surrounded by ruins and radiation. The figure didn't move as she approached, but she could see it breathing, or whatever passed for breathing among its kind. Up close, the alien's appearance was both fascinating and unsettling. Its skin had a translucent quality, with patterns of bioluminescence pulsing weakly beneath. The body structure reminded her of a praying mantis crossed with a dolphin, all smooth curves and lethal grace, even in unconsciousness. Sarah's radiation meter spiked as she knelt beside the creature. Whatever it was hot, not from contamination, but as if its very biology was powered by controlled nuclear reactions. Her suit would protect her for now, but she'd need to be careful. "Hey there," she said softly, knowing it probably couldn't understand but hoping her tone would carry meaning. "I'm going to help you, okay?" The alien's eyes snapped open, all 4 of them, arranged in a diamond pattern. They were deep violet and surprisingly human in their expression of pain and fear. A sound emerged from somewhere in its torso, like wind through crystal. Sarah's translator implant hummed to life, struggling to process the alien language. Finally, it produced words. "Danger, coming. Must warn." The alien's eyes rolled back, and it lost consciousness again. Sarah's HUD was screaming warnings about the rising radiation levels. She had minutes at most, before she'd have to retreat or risk suit failure. That's when she heard it. A low, thrumming sound that made her bones vibrate. Looking up, she saw 3 more craft, similar to the crashed one but larger, descending through the rusty clouds. Their surfaces rippled with angry red patterns. Sarah made her decision. She activated her suit's emergency power reserves and lifted the alien as gently as she could. Control, this is Chen. We have incoming bogies and I'm Oscar Mike with the survivor. Have medical standing by. And tell them to prep the radiation containment unit. As she moved as quickly as she dared through the ruins, cradling her unusual burden, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just involved herself in something far bigger than a simple rescue. The alien's words echoed in her mind. Danger coming. Must warn. She looked up at the descending ships, then down at her unconscious passenger. What exactly have you gotten me into, friend? Behind her, the crashed ship suddenly erupted in a silent explosion of pure white light. Her suit's radiation shielding maxed out as the shockwave approached. Sarah dove behind a fallen concrete pillar, curling her body around the alien to protect it as the light washed over them like a tide. As consciousness faded, her last thought was that Control was going to be really pissed about her breaking protocol. Again. Sarah awoke to the steady hum of containment fields and the antiseptic smell of the underground medical facility. Her radiation badge had turned black. She'd taken a massive dose, but her suit's shielding had held just long enough. The doctor said she'd make a full recovery. Her career prospects, on the other hand. Of all the reckless, insubordinate stunts you've pulled, Commander, this one takes the cake. Colonel Marcus Hayes paced the length of her hospital room, his weathered face creased with anger and worry. You violated at least 6 protocols, endangered yourself, and potentially the entire facility. And for what? An alien that might have been hostile. With respect, sir, if they were hostile, they've had 20 years to finish what they started in the resource wars. That explosion wasn't a weapon. It was them destroying evidence. They're running from something. Hayes stopped pacing. And how exactly do you know that? Because she told me, came a crystalline voice from the doorway. Sarah turned to see her alien rescue transformed. Gone was the injured creature from the wasteland. In its place stood a being of ethereal grace, its translucent skin now glowing with strong, steady patterns of light. The alien inclined its head in what Sarah recognized as a gesture of respect. I am Zyra Khan, first speaker of the Calaxian Exodus. Thanks to your commander's intervention, I live to warn you of what comes. The alien's translator rendered its voice in haunting, musical tones, though I fear I may already be too late. Hayes's hand instinctively moved toward his sidearm. Warn us about what? The Dominion. They believe they have found in humanity a worthy addition to their collection. My people refused to join them peacefully centuries ago. We have been running ever since. Sarah sat up straighter, ignoring the protest of her healing injuries. The ships that were chasing you, they were these Dominion. Hunter-seekers, yes. The Dominion's instruments of acquisition. Zara moved to the window overlooking the underground facility's main cavern. They will have already reported your presence, your compassion in helping me. The Dominion considers such traits desirable. So helping you basically painted a target on Earth, Hayes growled. Earth has been targeted since your first radio transmissions reached Dominion space, Zyra countered. I came to warn you, to help you prepare. My ship contained data on their weaknesses, their patterns of conquest. But now that data's atomized in the wasteland, Sarah finished, along with any proof of what you're telling us. Zyra turned all 4 eyes on her. Not all of it. I carry certain technological augments, a data core encoded in my cellular structure. But accessing it will require trust on both sides. Hayes barked a laugh. Trust. The last time humanity trusted aliens, we lost half the planet's surface to radiation. Those were the harvesters, Colonel. Mindless resource gatherers. The Dominion is far worse. They collect civilizations, cultures, entire species, and they never let go. Sarah studied the alien carefully. Either this was an elaborate deception, or, sir, permission to speak freely. Hayes sighed. When has my permission ever stopped you, Chen? Look at the radiation patterns from the explosion. Look at the energy signatures we recorded. Whatever technology they're using, it's centuries beyond the harvesters. If there's even a chance this threat is real. Before Hayes could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Sarah's blood ran cold as she recognized the pattern. Perimeter breach, multiple contacts. Zyra's bioluminescence pulsed with anxiety. They're here. Sooner than I expected. The hunter-seekers must have called in a nearby acquisition fleet. Hayes was already moving, barking orders into his comm unit. All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Sarah swung her legs off the bed, fighting down a wave of dizziness. Sir, I need to get back to my unit. You need to rest, Commander. That's an order. With respect, sir, go to hell. If this is the end of the world, I'm not watching from a hospital bed. To her surprise, Hayes smiled grimly. I thought you'd say that. Your suit's been repaired and upgraded. Get to the armory. He turned to Zura. You, if you're really here to help, prove it. What are we up against? The aliens' patterns shifted to what Sarah was learning to recognize as determination. The first wave will be infiltration units, small, fast, designed to gather tactical data and disable key systems. They'll be followed by biomechanical shock troops. The Dominion believes in field testing potential acquisitions. Testing us. For what? Worthiness. They want to see how you fight, how you adapt. It's all part of their evaluation process. Zyra's voice carried an edge of bitter experience. My people earned a very high score. We've been running ever since. More alarms joined the cacophony. On the monitors, Sarah could see multiple breaches forming throughout the facility. The infiltrators were already inside. Well then, she said, checking the charge on her sidearm, let's show them humanity's not interested in being collected. As they moved through the rapidly mobilizing facility, Sarah noticed Zura watching her with an unreadable expression. Something on your mind. You saved me knowing nothing about me, risking everything. Why? Sarah thought about it as they ran. Because it was right. Because leaving someone to die alone, human or alien, isn't who we are. Not anymore. Even after what happened to your world. Especially after that. We learned the hard way that fear and isolation only make us weaker. Whatever's coming, we face it together or not at all. Zyra was silent for a moment, then spoke softly. The Dominion believes they collect the worthy, but perhaps they should fear finding those who are truly worth fighting. They reached the armory just as the first explosions rocked the facility. As Sarah donned her upgraded suit, she caught Hayes watching her. Sir, just thinking, Commander, about protocols and when to break them. He handed her a plasma rifle. Give them hell, Chen. Show them what humanity's got. Sarah checked her weapons and nodded to Zura, ready to make your relatives regret dropping by uninvited. The aliens' patterns pulsed with what might have been amusement. They are not my relatives, Commander. But yes, I believe I am ready to help humanity demonstrate its unique qualities. Together, they moved toward the sound of battle, toward humanity's first real test against the Dominion. Sarah couldn't help but smile grimly. If they wanted to see what humans were made of, they were about to get one hell of a demonstration. The infiltration units came like liquid shadow, their biomechanical forms flowing through the smallest gaps in the facility's defenses. Sarah's upgraded suit sensors picked them up just in time, her plasma rifle turning 3 of them to ash before they could reach the command center's door. They're prodding our defenses, Zyra observed, her own crystalline weapon humming with barely contained energy. Testing responses, adaptation rates, tactical flexibility. Well, I hope we're giving them a good show. Sarah grunted, deploying another containment field. The aliens had already adapted to the first 2 configurations, but humanity had learned a few tricks since the resource wars. Because we're running out of surprises. The facility shook as another explosion rocked the upper levels. Colonel Hayes's voice crackled over the comm. Chen, we've got bigger problems. The data core, whatever's in your friend's head, is broadcasting some kind of signal. The Dominion forces are converging on your position. Sarah glanced at Sarah, who had gone very still. Something you want to tell me? The aliens' bioluminescent patterns shifted in what Sarah was learning to recognize as distress. The data core. It contains more than just tactical information about the Dominion. It holds the key to my people's greatest discovery, the reason the Dominion hunts us so relentlessly. Which is, before Zira could answer, the wall behind them exploded inward. Through the breach stepped something that made the infiltration units look primitive by comparison. 3 meters of gleaming biotechnology, its form a nightmarish fusion of organic and mechanical components. A Dominion shock trooper. Galaxian's sovereign entity detected. It announced in a voice like grinding crystals. Surrender for processing or face immediate termination. Sarah raised her rifle. How about option 3? She fired, but the shock trooper's adaptive shielding absorbed the plasma burst. It raised an arm, weapon ports opening. Zira moved faster than Sarah thought possible, shoving her aside as energy beams carved through the space she'd occupied. The alien's crystalline weapon fired, not at the shock trooper, but at the ceiling above it. Tons of reinforced concrete came down, buying them precious seconds. Run. Zira pulled Sarah to her feet. The data core. They can't be allowed to access it. Everything we discovered about the nature of consciousness, of reality itself. In English, or whatever my translator can handle. They sprinted through the facility's corridors, more shock troopers breaching in behind them. Zira's patterns pulsed rapidly as she explained. My people found a way to transcend physical form, to exist as pure energy. But the process had an unexpected side effect. It created a feedback loop in the universal consciousness field. The what now? Reality itself is conscious, Commander. And we found a way to access it, to potentially reshape it. The Dominion doesn't want to stop us. They want to control it, to remake all of existence in their image. Sarah's mind reeled at the implications. And you brought this to Earth, painted a target on us. I brought it because humanity might be the only species capable of stopping them. Zira's voice carried desperate conviction. Your adaptability, your impossible resilience. Even now, your people are analyzing their weapons, finding countermeasures. The Dominion doesn't understand how a species that barely survived its own wars could advance so quickly. They reached a sealed blast door. Sarah slammed the emergency override as more shock troopers appeared behind them. Maybe because those wars taught us the hard way that survival isn't enough. You have to learn, adapt, or die. The door opened to reveal the facility's reactor core and a dozen more shock troopers waiting for them. They were surrounded. Surrender, the lead trooper demanded. Resistance is inefficient. Sarah checked her weapons charge, nearly depleted. Zira, whatever you're going to do with that data core, do it fast. I can't. The alien's patterns had shifted to a deep, pulsing red. Accessing it requires a breakthrough I haven't achieved. The final key to transcendence requires something my people lack, something we lost centuries ago in our drive for perfection. Which is raw emotion, instinct, the chaotic, beautiful irrationality that defines humanity, the very things the Dominion seeks to collect and control. The shock troopers moved closer, weapons charged. Sarah's mind raced. You're saying you need a human consciousness to complete the process, to access this universal field. Yes, but the neural interface would likely be fatal. I cannot ask. Do it. Zira's 4 eyes widened. Commander. Sarah. My name is Sarah. She managed a grim smile. And if we're going to merge consciousness or whatever, we should probably be on a first-name basis. You don't understand what you're agreeing to. The pain alone. Pain I can handle. Watching these bastards collect and control humanity like some kind of cosmic butterfly collection. That I can't live with. Sarah met all four of Zara's eyes. Do it. Show them what happens when you try to control the human spirit. The shock troopers must have sensed something was happening. They raised their weapons just as Zara's crystalline form began to glow with impossible brightness. Her pattern synchronized with Sarah's neural implants, and the world dissolved into light and agony. In that moment of connection, Sarah understood everything. The true nature of reality, the Dominion's grand design, and most importantly, why they were doomed to fail. You couldn't control consciousness itself. You couldn't collect and catalog the infinite possibilities of existence. You could only set them free. As Sarah's consciousness merged with Zara's, as the data core's secrets unlocked something vast and luminous within them both, her last coherent thought was a very human one. Time to show these collectors what humanity's really made of. Light. Infinite light, fracturing into countless possibilities, each one a universe of potential. Sarah felt herself dissolving, expanding, becoming something vast and incomprehensible. Zara's consciousness intertwined with hers, their merged awareness touching the very fabric of reality. Time to end this, she thought /spoke /felt, her human determination crystallizing their shared purpose. We will cease to be as we are. Zara's thoughts resonated through their union. Yeah, well, humanity's pretty good at BCO memang so me thing in you. The shock troopers' weapons discharged, but the energy passed harmlessly through their transforming form. Sarah felt the data core's knowledge integrating with her human instincts, creating something neither species had imagined possible. They weren't just accessing the universal consciousness field, they were becoming it. Through their expanded awareness, they could sense the Dominion fleet in orbit, more ships arriving by the moment. They saw the truth of what the Dominion had done to countless civilizations, reducing vibrant cultures to carefully controlled specimens in their grand collection. No more. The thought rippled through reality itself. In the reactor chamber, their merged form blazed like a newborn star. Colonel Hayes and the surviving facility personnel watched in awe as Sarah and Zara's physical forms dissolved into pure energy patterns of light dancing in impossibly beautiful configurations. My God, Hayes whispered, what are we seeing? The shock troopers attempted to retreat, but it was too late. The energy field expanding from the merged consciousness touched them, and they simply stopped, not destroyed, but transformed. The Dominion's control over their biotechnology dissolved as the universal field reasserted its natural order. Through her vastly expanded awareness, Sarah could feel the confusion and fear rippling through the Dominion fleet. Their carefully controlled reality was unraveling. The collected species in their vast menagerie were awakening, their natural consciousness reasserting itself. But the process was far from complete. Sarah felt herself stretching thinner, the human part of her consciousness beginning to fade under the strain of maintaining the field. She was losing herself in the infinite. Holdy on, Zara's thoughts anchored her. Remember who you are, why you fight. Sarah focused on her humanity, on scraped knees and summer rain, on her mother's laugh and her father's tears, on every messy, chaotic, beautiful moment that made her human. The memories crystallized, giving structure to their shared consciousness. Above the facility, the Dominion ships began to fall. Not destroyed, but transformed, their controlled biotechnology returning to its natural state. Across Earth, humanity watched in wonder as the sky filled with aurora-like patterns of light, a display of cosmic consciousness made manifest. But Sarah was dying. The human mind was never meant to channel this much awareness. Even merged with Zara, even transformed into energy, she could feel herself coming apart at the seams of reality. "We must complete the transformation," Zara urged. "Return to physical form, or be lost forever." But the Idiomania is FINISHED. Their control is broken. Now, we must save ourselves. Sarah felt it then. a path back to physicality, but not as they were. They could never go back to their original forms, but they could become something new. Something that could bridge the gap between matter and energy, between conscious and unconscious reality. Through what remained of her human senses, Sarah heard Hayes's voice. "Chen, if you can hear me, thank you for everything." She tried to respond, to say goodbye, but she was already changing. The light that was Sarah Chen and Zaira Khan began to coalesce, taking on a form that was neither human nor Galaxian, but something entirely new. As their consciousness settled into its new shape, Sarah retained enough of her humanity to appreciate the irony. The Dominion had sought to collect and control the diversity of life, but in doing so, they had forced the creation of something beyond their comprehension. The being that emerged from the light stood 3 meters tall, its form a perfect fusion of organic crystal and energy. Patterns of light flowed through its translucent surface, and its eyes, too human, too Galaxian, regarded the assembled humans with ancient wisdom and newborn wonder. "Commander Chen," Hayes approached cautiously. "Are you still in there?" The being's voice resonated with harmonics that made the air itself vibrate. "We are Sarah. We are Zaira. We are something else entirely." A pause, then a very human smile crossed its crystalline features. "And Colonel, I think I've earned that promotion." Around them, the facility's sensors reported that the Dominion fleet was retreating, their carefully controlled biotech ships now operating on pure instinct. Their grand collection was breaking free, each species awakening to its own consciousness, its own destiny. But this was just the beginning. The being that had been Sarah and Zaira could feel the changes rippling through space-time. Humanity's first step into a larger universe had been dramatic, but the real work was just beginning. They had broken the Dominion's control, but countless species would need help adjusting to freedom. And there were other threats out there, other forces that sought to control rather than coexist. The being looked at its former colleagues, its dual consciousness reaching a quick decision. "Colonel, I believe Earth is going to need an ambassador to the wider universe, someone who understands both humanity and what lies beyond." Hayes looked at the transformed entity before him, at the impossible fusion of human and alien, of matter and energy, and managed a wry smile. "Just try not to break too many protocols this time." The crystalline face shifted in what might have been a smirk. "Now, Colonel, you know that's not my style." As the sun rose over the facility, painting the sky in colors no human eye had ever seen before, the being that had once been Sarah Chen and Zaira Khan prepared to help humanity take its first steps into a universe far stranger and more wonderful than anyone had imagined. They had survived the Dominion not through superior technology or military might, but through the very chaos and emotion they had sought to control. Humanity's greatest weakness had proved to be its greatest strength. And somewhere, in the vast consciousness field permeated reality, Sarah Chen smiled. 1 year after the transformation, humanity was still adapting to its new reality. The being that had once been Sarah Chen and Zaira Khan stood at the United Earth Council chamber, its crystalline form refracting the morning light into patterns that danced across the walls. Representatives from every surviving human settlement filled the rebuilt chamber, along with delegates from a dozen formerly enslaved species. "The Dominion's empire continues to dissolve," the being explained, its dual-tone voice carrying easily through the vast space. "Their control over biotechnology has been permanently broken. The collected species are returning to their homeworlds, rebuilding their cultures. But they need guidance, understanding, and humanity has been chosen to help lead the way." A murmur ran through the assembled delegates. Admiral Hayes, promoted after the crisis, spoke up from his position at the council table. "Chosen? By whom?" "By the universe itself." The being's 4 eyes, too human, too Galaxian, swept the chamber. What happened here, what we became, it wasn't just about stopping the Dominion. It was evolution. The next step in consciousness itself, And humanity's unique characteristics make you perfectly suited to guide others through this transition. Our chaos, you mean, one of the delegates said. Our unpredictability. Your adaptability. Your creativity. Your ability to face the impossible and not just survive, but thrive. The being's form shifted, momentarily showing echoes of Sarah Chen's human features. The Dominion sought to collect and control these traits. Instead, they catalyzed something far greater. On the massive screens behind the being, images appeared showing the changes spreading across the galaxy. Former Dominion worlds blooming with new life as controlled biotechnology returned to its natural state. Ancient species awakening from centuries of enforced stasis. And everywhere, the signs of consciousness evolving, growing, becoming something more. But there are risks, Hayes noted. The power you wielded, that we might all one day wield, it could be devastating in the wrong hands. The being nodded, which is why we need guides, teachers, those who understand both the physical and the transcendent. Its form rippled with patterns of light. Humanity has already proven it can survive apocalypse and rebuild. Now you must help others do the same. A delegate from one of the formerly enslaved species, a being of living metal and light, rose to speak. My people were part of the Dominion's collection for 10,000 years. We forgot who we were, what we could become. But humanity, it gestured at the assembled humans with appendages of flowing metal. You reminded us that consciousness cannot be contained. That true strength lies not in control, but in embracing change. The being that had been Sarah and Zira moved to the center of the chamber, its form casting prismatic shadows. The universe is conscious. Reality itself thinks, feels, evolves. The Dominion sought to control this process, to direct evolution according to their design. But consciousness cannot be controlled. It can only be experienced, explored, and expanded. As if in response to these words, the being's form began to shift, becoming more fluid, more radiant. The assembled delegates watched in awe as it demonstrated what humanity might one day become. A consciousness freed from the constraints of simple matter, yet still retaining its essential nature. This is not an ending, the being continued, its voice resonating with both Sarah's human determination and Zera's ancient wisdom. It is a beginning. Humanity's first steps into a larger universe. You will face challenges, threats greater than the Dominion, but you will not face them alone. The chamber's lights dimmed as the being's radiance grew, illuminating the faces of humans and aliens alike. In that light, the differences between species seemed to fade, revealing the underlying consciousness that connected all living things. I remain your ambassador, the being said, its form settling back into its more solid state, both to the species awakening from Dominion control and to the greater consciousness that permeates reality. Humanity needed a bridge between what it was and what it could become. That is what Zira and I became when we merged, not an ending of either of us, but a transformation into something that could help both our peoples grow. Hayes stood, his weathered face solemn. And what exactly are we becoming? The being smiled, an expression somehow both alien and deeply human, something wonderful, something that even the Dominion, with all their attempts to catalog and control evolution, could never have predicted. You are becoming what you were always meant to be, not collectors or controllers of consciousness, but explorers of it. Teachers, guides, partners in the greatest journey consciousness has ever undertaken. As the chamber erupted in discussion, the being gazed out at the restored Earth landscape visible through the windows. The radiation wastes were healing, transformed by the same universal consciousness that had defeated the Dominion. New life was blooming in the ruins, just as new awareness was blooming across the galaxy. In what remained of its once human consciousness, Sarah Chen felt satisfaction. They had not only survived, they had shown the universe a new way forward, not through dominion or control, but through adaptation, transformation, and the uniquely human ability to face the unknown with courage and hope. The universe was conscious, and humanity was finally ready to join the conversation. As the dawn painted the sky in colors no human eye could have seen a year ago, the being that bridged worlds prepared to help humanity take its next steps into a universe far stranger, far more wonderful, and far more conscious than anyone had ever imagined. The age of collection and control was over. The age of exploration and understanding had begun.